Hi, my name is Darrel Harris. I work for the county's Information Services Department. I'm a programmer analyst for the county, and the Public Defender's Department came to us and asked us to help them solve some problems that they were having with their systems, some pain points that they wanted us to resolve for them. And so what we did was we took the approach of more of a plug-in type of approach. Everything that we did was designed to be a plug-in, work with their existing application. We made no changes to the application itself, to their current case management application. We didn't change that application at all. We used Microsoft SQL Server integration services to run all of the back-end processes that are running with what we did with the automation. We also created a website for them with ASP.NET to allow the staff to interact with the back-end processes so they can make requests that aren't normally handled by the system itself. The PDF forms all use embedded JavaScript to do data validation before those forms are submitted, so that the process doesn't run into any unusual problems during the course of what it's doing. There's only, within the system, there's only 3 what we would term black box compiled programs that would require a programmer to come in and change them. Everything that we did is configurable using SSIS, and so you could just come into it and take a look at, if you're familiar with SSIS and the process, you can just take a look at what's there and change the configuration on the fly. You wouldn't necessarily need programming staff to come in, change the program, recompile it, redeploy it, thus extending your timeline for getting something out when you have a correction that needs to be made or something that has to be done very quickly. Those 3 black boxes have 3 main functionalities. They handle the creation of the annotation sheet, they handle the downloading of the email and the PDF file and extracting that data out of the PDF file, and then it also handles, when they create a new annotation sheet, it merges the historical annotations with the new posting sheet that's there. All of the other processing, as I mentioned, is done with SSIS, so that was our main goal. We did not want to create, as I said, those black boxes for them that would cause them to be recompiled and redeployed. So these components all work together in unison with the existing application. We didn't have to, again, modify the application in any way. That's about it.
So I wanted to ask, when you took a look at the process and the system that was being utilized at the Public Defender's Office, what would you say are the advantages and the disadvantages of this system as compared to other systems that you've helped develop in the past?
Well, the advantage of the approach that we took here is that it provides you a lot more flexibility in how you approach making changes, if you will, to your application. I think it saves you a lot of time. I think it saves you a lot of money. If you were to take the approach, if we were to try and integrate something like you had already done with your system, with your case management system, and took the approach of, well, let's rewrite the thing to incorporate what you've done, obviously you would have incurred a whole lot more cost and your timeline would have stretched out. Now we can take it and attack various things just piece by piece. What is it that we need to solve today, and let's take the approach of handling that piece and replacing or enhancing that. And then later, if you would like, if it becomes desirable for you, we could actually come back and take a look at it. Okay, our case management application isn't serving the needs that we have for it today, so let's look at now starting to replace some of those modules, and we could actually do that in phases in one piece at a time. We wouldn't stretch that development timeline out for months and months and months typically. We could just attack one problem at a time and solve the need that you have today.
Okay. And this type of approach would work with several types of databases. It's not specific to the database that existed at the Public Defender's Office in San Bernardino County. No,
not necessarily. It really could you could use the same approach with any existing case management application if you were. In fact, we're taking a look at our coroner, the county coroner, has asked us to take a look at doing something very, very similar to what we did for the Public Defender. And when they're out in the field using PDF forms to fill in the information during their investigation while they're there doing their first responding to a death, and then submitting those forms and updating their case management system. it's all very, very similar processing, so we would be able to use the same techniques that we used here in other applications as well. So again, not just even public defenders or district attorney case management, but other applications as well.
So what it sounds like you're telling us is that this approach is very customizable to any company or organization. Is that one of the, I guess, unique points about this system?
Yeah, I mean, again, taking the approach is definitely would be transferable to any organization. But yeah, I would agree. Any organization that and try to solve any problem that they may have. Obviously, you have to know. It's not going to be just simple. You have to know how your procedures are, what your procedures are. You have to know your application in order to interact with it. The techniques and the approach that we use is certainly transferable to really almost any kind of an application or a process.
Did you mention if, in terms of what disadvantage do you see in utilizing the system that was developed at the Public Defender's Office?
The disadvantages would be really only if you're not, from my perspective, if you're not familiar with your application and how it is built and structured. You have to have a thorough understanding of that.
And when you say the structure, are you talking about the business process of your organization?
I'm talking about both the business process and your back-end database and how your application itself functions. You can't just take, for instance, somebody that's never had any kind of exposure to an application, just throw them onto the project and say, hey, I want you to write this that's going to update this database. It takes a little bit more than that. Again, you have to understand the procedures and the business rules for the organization before you really kind of get going and jumping in on what you've done.
In terms of the system that you see that is at the Public Defender's organization, how unique is what we are utilizing in terms of PDF forms, movement of files? How unique of a system is that compared to other systems that you typically have developed?
For me, that's the first time I'd ever seen it being done. I'd never seen an organization, again, using PDF forms, and that, I knew PDF forms existed, in our business, obviously, we know those kind of things. I've been around 20, 25 years. So yeah, I've always thought of PDF forms as just something that somebody throws out there, somebody fills it in and sends it or prints it or whatever they've done with it. I'd never seen it used in this way before, to where you were emailing it in and people were using it to then update the case management process or files. So what had already been developed really just gave us a great jumping off point for automating that process. I mean, the procedure was already done. You guys had already gone through and developed the procedures and processes, and we just provided the automation that was done in various points in the process. So it was quite unique. You definitely free yourself from traditional document management systems, for instance. If it was to have to then determine how is it going to display that information back out to a user within the confines of those traditional applications, and how many of them are built, or many of the ones that we use here at the county are built, it does have to know to a certain extent what kind of files have been uploaded into it, and in order for it to again serve that back out to the end user, and so they can see it. Here, of course, we're not worried about it. We're just moving the entire case folder from one place to the next, and whatever you put in there really doesn't affect us one way or the other. Hybrid is a good term to describe what we've done here. Obviously, it's a traditional database and program that interacts with that database, and then we've extended it, as we talked about before, extended it well beyond that by bringing in automated processes that all run on that same database engine. We're still utilizing the case management's database engine that it's got to handle all of these other processes. I think what we've done here is far extended it beyond, just what you would traditionally see in an application. I think it really allows you to do whatever you want with the system, I think.
Meaning it's much more flexible and
Yeah,
open.
Yeah, it exactly like like I mentioned, open source. There is an open source component to this, just the part that works with the DLLs, but the DLLs works with the PDFs is what I meant to say. But it does. It gives you a whole lot more flexibility, and as I kind of mentioned before, we can, if we want, we can take that back end out, that case management application, if we want to replace that. We don't have to replace the database. The data is still good. The structure of the database is still good, but we can replace the front end and what we're doing with that interaction, with that user interface piece. We can replace that very easily and not impact any of the other work that we've done. What I would say as far as what we've done here and what we potentially can do with going forward with the San Bernardino County's public defender is that I think cost is going to be far less than, again, going out and looking at a major replacement of your existing systems. I just think in the future, as going down and moving forward, I don't think your costs are going to be nearly as high as if you might have implemented or gone with a vendor-based. Well, from what I experienced through the course of the project, obviously the staff that I worked with on the project are quite involved and passionate about what they wanted to do and how they envisioned the process moving forward. I think I've told you before that I love when the departments are engaged in the process. If I have people that I'm working with that are really engaged and focused on what they're trying to accomplish and the goals that they have, it makes for a far better end product. I don't think we would have gotten to where we were if you had your traditional involvement that we see with so many of our customers that we work with. A lot of times they're not entirely sure what it is they want to do, and so it takes a more traditional approach, and we try and go back and forth and understand what it is that they're trying to do. Here there was a definite goal in mind, and just the working back and forth and bouncing things off of each other, that's the type of development I really like to see, the kind of give and take and working together between IT and department that really brings out, as I said, a really, really great end product.